Alright. Well, this is going to be part 1 to What If Deku Was Neglected. This was a request from, one of my oldest and dearest friends, Neko. You know who you are. I don't even really need to say anything. But, so I'm gonna be doing a bit of stuff for this, what if. So, yeah. So, Deku is not going to be an only child in this. He's going to be the youngest, actually, of 2 elder sisters. Alright? And both of them are pro heroes. So, you'll probably recognize them when I show the pictures of them. But, they're pretty well known. So, yeah. So, we start this off when Deku is 4 years old. He's with his mother and father's because they're both at home because, one of his sisters are already in UA, his eldest is in UA, and then the other one is about to exit middle school, we'll say. So, so after that, Deku basically, he goes to the quirk doctor, he gets his quirk evaluated, and he turns out quirkless. And the parents are not happy. Inko, or do we even want this to be Inko? Yeah, it's Inko, because I can't think of a better name. Inko and Hisashi are not happy about this, because they want money. Like, I'm just gonna throw it. Like, they just want money. No reason. They're not poor. They're not struggling financially. They just want to live easy, happy-go-lucky lives, And they want their children to be, the reason why they live that life. So, yeah. Then, Deku hears this, and, he's really sad by this, because, he wants to be like his sisters, who are amazing and stuff like that in his eyes. So, Deku, he's just chilling out right now. He goes home with his mom, he's sad. And then he asks Mom, can I be a hero without a quirk? Right? Can I be a hero like All Might? Because, All Might's still his idol. And then she looks at him with disgust, and she's like, of course not, you're quirkless. What can you do? And, she walks out of the room. And Deku, he's in his, room, and he's just crying in his own hands. And his sisters don't know about this, because they're still in school. So they get home, and, they see that, Inko and Hisashi aren't with Deku, which isn't normal. So they're like, where's Midoriya? And they say, oh, that kid, he's in his room. And, they're surprised by how they addressed Midoriya, because, they used to treat Izuku so well, right? So they go into the room, and they see that, Degu's crying. And then, they go in, they're like, what's going on, Izuku? And then, basically, Izuku is told, what's it called? Basically, Izuku tells him, I'm quirkless. And then they're like, oh my, I'm sorry, So they're not gonna treat him any differently, but he's like, and then mom said I was useless, Then they realize, oh shit, because they knew that their parents wanted them to have money, but they didn't know that they're willing to, treat Izuku like this, and they can't really do anything because they're in high school. So they're like, listen, don't worry about what they say. All right, we know that you're useful. We know that you can do whatever you want to do. Right? And Deku's slightly happier to hear his sister say this. So, yeah, Deku, he lives out his life. Everything goes basically normal to canon. Well, not really. Actually, let me backtrack. So, Deku, he's going to school for, 3 more years, and then his sister gets out of UA, and she becomes a pro hero. And basically, the moment she becomes a pro hero, she moves Deku to a nicer school, a way nicer school. Right? Because she's a really good hero. She gets a lot of money out of it. She still does help her mom and dad because, they're still her mom and dad, even if they are dicks to Izuku. So she helps out her mom and dad and stuff like that, but now she's around even less because, she's a pro hero. And, also, since she finished UA, that means that, his other sister, the younger one, she's on her last year. So, yeah. So now Izuku, he's moved to a private school, He goes into class, and everybody's like, hello there, yada, yada, yada. He's like, I'm Izuku Midoriya. And then he goes, and he takes his seat. And class goes the same, right? And then after that, it's lunch, and everybody's sitting around Deku, and they're like, so what's your quirk, right? And, So, Deku, he's like, yeah, I'm quirkless. Keep in mind, Deku, he's still like, what? So he's 7 now, I think, if I do good math. Yeah, he's 7. So Deku's 7 years old, and everybody's like, what? You're quirkless? A few people chuckle a bit, and they're like, you're useless then, basically. So they move immediately, and then Deku sees that someone else is sitting alone, and he's like, I know that kind of sucks, but this person has like, they have, do I want to say anything? Nah, they don't have it. So basically, he goes over, he sits down, and then this person, she's like, what are you sitting here for? He's like, you seem lonely over here. And she's like, I mean, not really, I just like sitting alone. And Deku's like, why do you like to sit alone? She explains that she's not the best with people, plus a bunch of people only like her for, who her dad is. And then Deku's like, I don't really care who your dad is, but what about you? What's your name? She says her name. Her name is Shota Todoroki. We're doing this. Alright. So, Deku's like, oh, okay, nice to meet you, Shota. Basically, they talk for a while. They become pretty cool. But, they're not besties, not yet, really. So, Deku he's talking with Shota, and, he explains, that he's quirkless, and yada, 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 and that his sisters are pro-heroes, because he doesn't really care about hiding it. It's not like anyone will hang out with him even more. So, he basically explains that, yeah, my sisters are pro-heroes. They just became, my eldest is a pro-hero, and my other one is planning on becoming one. And then she's like, oh, are they nice to you? He's like, yeah, they are. And then he explains that, but his parents, though, like, they don't care about him. She raised an eyebrow to this. She's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, my sisters are never home because they have to do hero work. Or, well, my sister, the other one is in high school, or college, I'll say, because UA is a college. The other one's in college, and, she never has time. So I'm usually just alone with them, and they don't really care about me. Sometimes they'll even hit me, but, he doesn't really say that last part. He says that last part under his breath, but, Todoroki kind of heard a little bit of it. She's like, why do you stay with them? He's like, well, for one, if I left, my sisters would be hurt because they care about me a lot. And for two, I mean, I don't really have anywhere else to go. So, they're talking for a little while. And then, we'll skip to high school at this point. So, Deku and Todoroki, they're really cool. They're, best friends at this point. And Deku does have a crush on her. But, Todoroki has a slight crush on Deku. But she's still cold-hearted. And Deku talks with her all the time. She did explain that she's the daughter of Endeavor, but Endeavor's a dickhead. Deku's like, oh, well then, fuck that guy. She was a bit surprised because she knows Deku's a hero nerd, but Todoroki is his best friend. And if Endeavor was, a bad father, then he understands, and he probably doesn't like Endeavor because of that. So, he's like, well, he's like, alright, Shota, I'm heading home. It's been a long day. So, because it was the end of the day, the teacher handed out flyers over what they wanted to be, and everyone said heroes, even Deku. He still applied to UA. Todoroki's like, that's pretty dangerous. The entrance exam, I know that's really, not safe. Deku's like, I'll be fine, yada yada yada. So Deku, he heads home, right? And as he's heading home, at this point, he's in middle school now. So his sisters have become pro heroes, and they're pretty well known. They're, what's it called? His eldest, she is we'll say, do I want to say number 2? I don't want to say number 1, because I need All Might to be the symbol of peace. We'll say number 2, and then his second youngest sister is number 4, Endeavor is number 3, which pisses him off majorly. And, I should probably show who his sisters are. Yeah, I almost completely forgot about that. So, this is his second oldest. Alright, you know her. Come on. And then this is, this is the eldest. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know. I forgot how to say their names already. I skipped it up because the one is like Tamaki or Tatsumaki, and then fuck. Yeah, fuck. Alright, but basically, just these two are sisters. This is the second eldest, this is the eldest, and Deku is over here without powers. So Deku, he's walking home, and then after that, he gets hit by like a trank in the neck. So he pulls it out. He's like, "The hell is this?" And then he drops. He's on the ground. And, basically, this portal guy, he walks up. He's on the phone. He's like, "It worked much easier than I thought it would." The other person on the end of the line, he's like, "Good, very good. Bring him in, Kurogiri. We have much to do." So, you already know who it is. It's the League of Villains. And, All for One's kidnapping Deku. So Deku, Deku, he wakes up. He's tied up, and he's in this bar, and he's looking around. He's like, "Where the hell am I?" He's like, "Who the hell are you?" What's it called? Kurogiri is like, "Hello there, I'm Kurogiri. This is Master Tomura, and you've been kidnapped." Like that's the best way to put it. So Deku was like, "Why do you want me?" And then they basically explain that, you're the sibling of the number 2 and 4 hero. Deku, he basically pulls out a flat ass lie. He's like, "They don't care about me. I'm quirkless." It's a flat lie. So then they'd believe it. They're like, "Shit, he is quirkless." Like, they check his record. He is quirkless, and so a lot of times this does happen. So they wouldn't be really surprised, especially with hero families too. So they're basically like, "Shit, alright, well, I guess that we have a better idea. Since we can't use him as hostage, we can use him for an experiment." And then they're basically, Shigaraki's like, "What, is he gonna become another Nomu?" They're like, No, we were planning on making something else this time." So basically, they throw him in a test tube, and they throw him in a test tube for now until he wakes up. So he's knocked out, and then he like has like little moments where he wakes up a little bit, but he sees like a doctor, and the doctor's in a surgical mask and doing some sort of surgery on him. So basically after that, Deku is a cyborg, or well, not the cyborg, more like an android. So Deku opens his eyes, he looks around, he's like, "Where the hell am I? Who the hell am I?" There were others before him, so basically Deku is like, he cracks his neck a little bit, he's in the tube. And then they open it up, and Deku just comes out of there. He's like, "Ugh, what the hell? Who are you?" And, the doctor says, "Hello there, I'm the doctor." He's like, you can just call me Doc." And then he sees this man sitting on this, chair, and he's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I am All for One, and I am your master." Yada, 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 stuff like that. So Deku, he's like, "Oh, okay." Because, he doesn't have any memories, so he just believes this. So Deku, he's like, "Alright, who am I?" And then they're like, "Oh, you are the android." And what's it called? He's like, "Android 17. He's like, "Oh, what happened to the other 16? And then he's like, "Well, they were failures. You, on the other hand, you were perfect. Honestly, I don't know how it worked so well." And then Deku's like, "Alright, what do you want us to do?" And at this point, Deku's been missing for the past, year, since it's been 10 months, and it was, a month until the USJ happened, I'm pretty sure. Right? Or the USJ happened within, the span of a week. So it's been about, 10 months and 3 weeks, because, they had to wait till the entry letter. At this point, Todoroki, she's super scared of what happened to Deku, because she's realizing that Deku was like the one person who she really opened up to and really cared about. So, you know, she realizes that she had feelings for him, basically, is what I'm saying. So, you know, basically, after that, they're like, we have a little mission. You'll be fighting in this place known as the USJ, and your goal is to kill the symbol of peace, All Might. So, you know, Deku, he's like, alright. And, you know, he just puts on his shirt and pants, and he gets ready to, you know, head out. So, basically, everyone's going to the USJ. We'll switch to the Class 1A. So everyone's going to the USJ. They're in the car, and everybody's talking, like, yada, yada, yada about quirks. And, you know, basically, they asked Todoroki, like, you know, what about her quirk. She's like, I have a half-hot, half-cold quirk, but I don't really use the flames for personal reasons. And, you know, that's where she leaves it off at. So then, you know, everybody's talking about how, you know, Bakugo and Todoroki are probably the strongest. And I'll say Shota from now on because, you know, some of you guys might think of the male Todoroki when I say it. Me, I really, at this point, I've heard so many what-ifs where they've shipped female Todoroki that I just automatically think either male or female, but shit, I can see how you guys think that. But, so Deku, you know, why did I say Deku? No, we're talking about the Class 1A. So they get to the USJ. 13 is explaining how quirks can be super dangerous if not used correctly. And, you know, Todoroki's not really paying attention because she's still thinking about, you know, Deku, because he's all that's been on her head for the last 10 months, and she's horrified of what could happen to him. And, you know, don't think that, you know, Tamaki and, I think, Tatsumaki and Fakumi? No, not Fakumi. Tatsumi and Fatsumaki? No, fuck, I don't know. I might check the names. Oh, shit. Fuck, what the hell happened? Alright. I don't know what happened. Loki, I might just look. Tamaki and Tatsumaki, and I don't know the sister's name. Fubuki. Alright, that's it. Fubuki and Tatsumaki. Alright, that's better. So Fubuki and Tatsumaki, they both are, like, you know, extremely worried as well. And they knew, like, you know, Shota, because she always, you know, hanged out with Deku, and Deku did talk about her a lot. So, because, you know, that was his only friend. So basically, you know, after that, the villains warp in. And, you know, the villains, like, you know, they come in first. Deku's still, you know, on the other side of the portal. He's waiting. You know, like, Shigaraki gives this whole spiel about how they're here to kill the symbol of peace. And then he looks around. He realizes, you know, All Might's not here. So he's like, alright, well, if we kill a few kids, maybe he'll come out. So, basically, that happens. Aizawa still goes out and, you know, kicks ass. And then after that, you know, he's like, alright, 17, kick his ass, you know. Deku walks out and he's looking around. He's like, alright. Because he can still talk and stuff like that. You know, basically, Aizawa tries to erase Deku's quirk. Deku, like, just appears next to Aizawa and throws a nasty fucking right hook. You know, Aizawa gets sent flying. Then he gets behind Aizawa and catches him. Because, remember, 17, right? So he just throws Aizawa to the ground, basically. And, basically, Shigaraki still goes to do his other shit that he did to Sue, but we'll say that, who would take Deku's place? Fucking Kendo, I want to say? We'll say Kendo. So Kendo just smacks him with a big hand, or is about to, until Deku just appears in front of Kendo and catches it. Basically, and, you know, Kendo's surprised that someone caught her fist, because she was trying to punch him. You know, he kicked her away. And then after that, he's like, and then, you know, after that, All Might busts in, and he's like, have no fear, because I am here. You know, his theme song plays, but it's about to get shattered, but because, you know, Deku's about to fold some niggas. But, alright, so, after that, what's it called? All Might sees that, Deku's standing there, and he's like, who the hell's the kid, Basically, I will say that Deku is in high school, right? So, or not high school, college. So he doesn't even need to, He doesn't even need to say that he gets older, because he's in his prime time. So basically, Shigaraki is like, this one was upgraded to kill you. And, Deku's like, yeah, I guess. So, after that, All Might, comes down there and he's like, reconsider this, yada, 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 this and that, Deku's like, I mean, I don't really have a reason to reconsider because I don't really remember anything. So, and then All Might realizes, like, oh shit, this is, Fubuki and Tatsumaki's little brother. He's like, you're Fubuki and Tatsumaki's little brother. And then Deku's like, who? Like, he looks at him dead in the face. He's like, who? And then All Might's like, oh, they must have taken your memories. I'll make sure to help you get them back. But I need to make sure that they can't get away. So get out of my way, boy. Deku takes a fighting stance. He's like, alright, let's just do this. So, basically, Deku and All Might are still in good hands right now. Deku has technique as well, since, he's an android, so they just downloaded that shit into his head. So Deku, he's throwing he's, doing counters, redoing attacks. He's basically kicking the shit out of All Might, because All Might has no strats. Because All Might is pure, power. But if someone matches him and beats him with skill, then the fuck is All Might? So Deku, he basically, All Might throws a punch, Deku dodges it, but turns around, grabs All Might's fist, and, basically judo flips him over his shoulder, which, basically what he did to Bakugo. And then after that, basically All Might gets up real quick, and then does a German suplex to Deku, but, Deku catches him, his head, he puts his hands to the ground and catches it, and then he gets his, left leg and just kicks All Might back. And then after that, while All Might's flying back, Deku just starts shooting blasts at him. Because you already know, I'm just giving him Android 17's ability. So he's shooting blasts, and then after that, All Might, goes for a punch that would actually hurt Deku quite a bit. So Deku just makes an energy barrier, and, All Might's punch shatters it, but, it doesn't keep going. It just gets stopped by it. So after that, they're throwing good hands, and then Todoroki, and then Todoroki runs up. She sees that All Might's being held in we'll say a full Nelson. So All Might's being held in a full Nelson right now. And then Shigaraki basically is like, he's like, you know what, 17. And then Deku looks at him and he's like, kill her. And he points at Todoroki. So Deku, he runs at her. He goes for a right hook, but he just stops. It just stops. He tries to move his arm and just refuses. He's like, why can't I hit her? Why can't I hit you? And he's looking at her with, a straight face. At this point, she's crying, hard. Because she was horrified, right? That Deku was hurt. And, she basically says, Izuku? And then, with, a confused but very sad tone, Deku, looks at her, he's like, who? Who the fuck's Izuku? And then she's like, you're Izuku, yada, yada, yada. So basically stuff like that. And then he's like, I don't really remember anything, sorry. And then, she's like, at this point, she's very, scared, because if he doesn't remember anything, then he won't really be the same at all, which, will hurt her. She's like, we can find a way to fix you back up, but please just stop this, And he's like, I want to understand why I can't hit you, though. And, basically, Deku keeps trying it, but, as he's trying, it's just, he has a straight face, keep in mind, the straightest face ever. But, there's tears going down his face, but he doesn't know why. He's touching his face, he's like, what the fuck is going on with me? And it's basically, it's all his subconscious doing this. It's like, how, subconsciously you'll do something that, you do every day that, mostly, normal people wouldn't do. If you just, I don't know, if you just walk a certain way. You don't mean to do it, but you just do it naturally. Or if you talk a certain way. Like me, I talk with a lisp. I have no control over that, though. But if I did have control over that, then it would be subconscious. So, basically, Deku, he doesn't know what to do at this point. He's like, huh, that's weird. And at this point, All Might's gotten back up, but, you know, he's not trying to get that fade again, because he's practically Small Might. So, you know, Kurogiri's about to have to teleport them out, because, you know, Shigaraki is about to get hit. Deku does not care about Shigaraki right now. What's he called? He didn't have any obedience chips in him, because, well, they couldn't really do anything about it. Like, every time they put an obedience chip in him, basically the android system saw it as, like, you know, a foreign entity and just deleted it, or just, you know, destroyed it. Basically, like, being an android, it doesn't work in All For One's favor, it works more in Deku's favor. And if Deku wants to help All For One, he can, but he doesn't really have to. So, you know, Deku basically, he just gives up because there's no reason for him to not do it. You know, basically, after that, you know, all the villains get caught, stuff like that. And then Fubuki and Tatsumaki, they both get called, and then Shoto explains the situation. You know, they immediately rush over because, you know, their brother was in danger. So Deku, like, looks at them, he's like, who are you? And then they look at him, like, very scared. They're like, I'm Fubuki, and I'm Tatsumaki. Deku's like, I don't know you two, I'm sorry, you know. Because he knows that he feels like he should remember them. He really does, but he just doesn't. And, I don't know if I want to give him back his memories, or if he's just going to stay memoryless. I'm probably going to give him back at one point, not going to lie. But not now. Not now, or anytime soon. So, you know, basically, he doesn't, you know, he heads home with them, but, like, once he gets home, he has this immediate feeling of leave. And so Deku just does that, because he has no reason to stay. They're like, what are you doing? He's like, the moment I saw those two, I feel like I need to leave. So he just walks out. They're like, wait, but where are you going to go? He's like, I don't know. And then he basically is, like, letting the wind guide where he goes, but literally he's just letting his subconscious guide where he goes. So he heads over to a house, and he's like, I have this weird feeling to knock on the door. So he knocks on the door. You know, it's, what's her name? What's her face? I'll say it's Natsu. It's Natsu, Todoroki. He's like, yo, what's up? And he's like, oh, shit, Izuku? And then, you know, he says this out loud. So Todoroki, she comes out. She's like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I came to your house, huh? And then she's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I didn't really want to be at that house that I was at before. So I just walked in a certain direction that I felt like I should walk in, and it led me here. So she's like, oh, do you want to stay? Like, you know, she's very confused right now. And Deku's like, yeah, is that okay? So, you know, he basically stays with her for the time being. You know, she's basically catching Deku up on what he missed, yada, 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 stuff like that. She's explaining him how he was before. He's like, damn, my life sucked. Like, you know, she laughs a little bit because, you know, he talked this way as well. His personality isn't different or anything. It's just he doesn't remember anything. Like, that's how I want to do this. I don't want to make him, you know, go from shy old Deku to a whole different fucking person. So he's like, damn, my life sucked. And she's like, you're still the same even without your memories. You know, Deku's like, well, I mean, so, he's like, what the hell is this? Like, you know, and then she's like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know, it's just, when I'm around other people, I feel normal. But for you, it's different, you know? She's like, a good different? He's like, I don't know, it's like, and then, you know, he basically describes, like, he's like, I have this, like, aching feeling in my chest, and, you know, basically, and then she's like, okay, anything else? He's like, well, when I try to talk to you, like, my stomach gets, like, he's like, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like it's being tied into knots, stuff like that. And, you know, she realizes that he subconsciously, like, without even really knowing her, has a crush. And she's like, I think I know what it is, but you'll have to figure that out on your own. And now Deku, he basically goes up to her. He's like, wait, what do you mean figure it out on my own? I need your help here. I don't have memories. She's like, and at this point, she's red. She's like, you have to figure it out on your own. And Deku's like, but that's not fair. You have to help me out here. And she's like, no, I don't. And Deku's like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to figure this out, She's like, she's just ignoring him at this point. She's like, if you don't want to get out, then you have to just leave it at that. And Deku doesn't want to leave because, he enjoys her company. So he's just like, alright, fine. I give up. I just wanted to know what something was. Didn't know that trying to learn was a sin in this household, but basically, that happens. And then, Endeavor comes home. He's like, I'm home. But, nobody cares. Other than, whatever the fuck her name was. I forgot. Endeavor, Todoroki's cute sister. I forgot her name. But, basically, she walks up. She's like, oh, hello, father, yada, yada, yada. Welcome home. And then, Endeavor sees Izuku, and he remembers Izuku. And he doesn't like Izuku for 2 reasons. 2, he feels like Izuku holds Shota back. And, 3rd, Izuku basically cursed the fuck out of Endeavor first time they met because, he tried to talk shit. So, basically, that happened. If you want me to go into... fuck it, I'm going into detail on what he said. So, So, we're going back in time when Deku is much younger. When he's, let's say, in, his first year of middle school. Alright? So, Deku, he goes to... He heads over to Shota's house. Sorry, it's like 4 a.m. He heads over to Shota's house, and, basically, he's talking with her, and then Endeavor comes home. He's like, I'm home. Same shit happens as, like, it happened in the future. Like, that's Endeavor's whole, like, debut of coming home. Not debut, but, schedule of coming home. So, basically, he sees Izuku. He's like, who is this, She's like, oh, this is my friend, Izuku Midoriya, yada, yada, yada. And then he's like, okay. And then, so basically, Endeavor was like, so what's your quirk, kid? Deku is like, I'm quirkless, sir. And then, basically, like, and then he looks at Shoto, basically completely ignoring, Deku. No, he's like, why are you hanging out with a quirkless kid? Yada, yada, yada. She's like, cause he's my friend. Then he's like, well, he's gonna hold you back in the future, him being quirkless and all. He's just going to be a weakness and a liability. And then now Todoroki's slightly annoyed because, that's her friend. It wasn't at that point crush yet, but that was her friend. So she's like, that's my friend that you're talking about, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't talk about him like that. And then, Deku's like, so do you have an issue with me or something? And then Endeavor's like, I mean, you're just gonna hold her back in the future, yada yada. Like, Deku's like, yeah, alright, whatever you say, number 2. And then, Endeavor looks at him, he's like, excuse me? He's like, number 2, second fiddle, not even the best. Like, just, he's just roasting Endeavor. Like, he's like, yeah, honestly, like, I don't know what the fuck your issue is, but, like, you need to get that stick out of your ass, because it's really far up there, and I can practically seeing it coming out of your fucking nose. Like, and then, at this point, Natsu, he's dying over there in the corner, and then Endeavor's like, the fuck did you just say to me? He's like, did you not hear me? Like, I'd expect, the number 2 hero to be able to hear shit. Like, and then he's like, number 2, honestly, that fits you a lot. Second fiddle, even though you want to be strong, you're just a weakling. And then he's like, who the fuck are you calling a weakling? He's like, I mean, can you beat All Might? Like, that's what it comes down to. Can you beat him? If not, then, don't talk to me. And then, what's it called? Endeavor's like, alright, how about we fight, kid? And then Deku raises his hand. He's like, oh no, look at that. Endeavor wants to fight the quirkless, not even 15-year-old yet. Won't that just make him look so powerful? He's mocking Endeavor. And Endeavor's like, the fuck? He's annoyed now. He's like, yeah, honestly, like, I can see why you're second fiddle. Honestly, you've started taking down more villains than even All Might, and I'm not even gonna lie about that. But you know what? You'll never be approved like All Might. You'll never be a symbol like All Might. If All Might retires, honestly, I look like down for when the Endeavor becomes the #1 hero, because at that point we won't have a symbol of peace. We'll have just an egomaniac who wants power and nothing more. You know, he basically goes. He basically grabs Shota's hand. He's like, "How about we go out and get some cold soba?" And then she's like, "Sure." You know, so they go out. Endeavor, he's fuming. He's pissed because, you know, Deku basically just called him out, saying that even if he became #1 hero, you know, he'd be nothing more than, you know, an egotistical maniac who wants nothing but power. Which, you know, and he's kind of right, but unless Endeavor changed like he did in canon, but, you know, that'll be a whole different arc thing. So, she's like, yeah, you told my father the first time you two met, and he doesn't really like you. And then Deku's like, oh, my bad. Like he's like, my bad. And she's like, no, it was the funniest shit ever. And then Deku's like, oh, well then, not my bad. So, you know, not to, he's thinking back on it, and he's laughing again. And then Endeavor's like, why is he here? He's like, and she's like, well, he was attacked by villains and experimented on, and now he has powers. And then Endeavor's like, oh, okay, and am I supposed to care? And basically she's like, she has this shitty eating grin, and she's like, oh yeah, I mean, you don't really have to care. Other than the fact that he did, like, didn't he, like, didn't you, like, fold All Might? And then, what's it called? Endeavor raises an eyebrow. He's like, that couldn't happen, you know? Basically, Deku's like, yeah, I faded him. What about it? And then, you know, Endeavor, he's laughing because he thinks that they're bullshitting with him. And Deku looks at him straight in the face and like, what's so funny? He's like, you think you can beat the symbol of peace, yada yada yada? You think you can just easily beat All Might? And then Deku's like, to be honest, I wasn't even really trying. I mean, it was a fun sparring match, but nothing really serious. So Endeavor, he's intrigued now because, you know, Deku showed no ounce of, you know, lying or anything like that. He's like, alright, we're gonna have a quick spar in the training ground. You know, Todoroki, she's like, I don't know about this one. You know, Deku's like, nah, it could be a good way to blow off steam. So basically, Deku, he walks into the training ground with Endeavor. Endeavor's like, well, either you can be telling the truth and this will be, you know, bad for me, which most likely and most definitely is not at all gonna happen. Or you could be lying and then I could fold you like an omelet in front of my whole family. And then, you know, Deku, he smiles. He's like, damn, that's crazy how I'm gonna have to be the man in the house when I kick the shit out of you, old man. And then Endeavor, he's like, the fuck did you just say to me? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna probably be the man of this house after I'm done here. You know, Todoroki, she's laughing, and Natsu, he's dying. And, you know, their sister is like, don't do it. Like, we don't have to do this, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, Endeavor, like, rushes at Izuku. Endeavor's pretty fucking fast, remember this. Endeavor is very fast, he's very strong. So he basically, he does like a flash fire fist, you know. He goes for the punch on Deku. Deku fucking blocks that shit. He's like, come on, you gotta do better than that, #2. You know, he slams, you know, he pushes Endeavor's hands down. And Endeavor, you know, he loses a bit of balance, and he knees Endeavor in the chin. Endeavor's sent up. You know, Deku basically, he creates, like, a barrier behind Endeavor. So Endeavor, it slams against it. Then Deku just, like, makes sure to bring down the barrier. Because he has barrier energies, like, you know, he can also kind of do telekinesis, but, like, the same way Goku does. Where he does, like, key binding, but he can do it to other stuff. So basically, he does, like, so after that, you know, he's fighting Endeavor, and, you know, he's getting bored. So he kicks Endeavor back. Endeavor rushes back at him, and then Deku does a key binding, and then, you know, Endeavor can't move. He's like, yeah, honestly, it's over. You're not that fun to fight, you know. Endeavor's like, the fuck did you just say? He's like, yeah, honestly, you're kind of disappointing. He's like, this isn't over until one of us is on the ground. And Deku's like, I can arrange that. So he basically stops the key binding. Endeavor rushes at Deku. Deku jumps up. Basically, he jumps over Endeavor, but he's like right above Endeavor, and he's spinning, and then he's spinning back fists him right into the ground, X-eye style, So he's spinning back fists him, and Endeavor's in the ground. He's knocked the fuck out. So his flames go out and stuff like that, but nothing. He's not dead, but he's knocked the fuck out. So Deku's like, so where's his room at? And then Todoroki's like, yeah, it's down the hall to the left. And Deku's just dragging him, and he throws him in his bed. He's like, enjoy your sleep. So then Deku just heads over. He's like, yo. And then basically Todoroki, she's on cloud fucking 9 right now. Because the guy who she has a crush on not only told her father a few years ago when he didn't have power, but also beat his ass. Like, come on. You gotta be on cloud fucking 9. So she's happy. Natsu, he's crying over laughter because that was the funniest and most badass shit he's ever seen. And basically, Natsu's sister and Todoroki's sister, I'm just gonna call her Todoroki, and then I'm gonna call Todoroki Shoto. She's like, you shouldn't have done that, yada yada yada. What's it called? Deku's like, yeah, I'm sorry about, causing issues in your home. Basically, they hang out. Deku's like, do you have a guest room? I really don't feel comfortable at my own house, apparently. So they're like, yeah, yada yada. He sleeps in the guest room. Nothing happens yet. But he just sleeps in the guest room, and yeah, that's how that goes. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. I really hope you guys enjoyed, because I actually had a lot of fun making this. If not, then sorry, but I'm still making this because Neko, you asked for it, and I will make this for you. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed. If not, then sorry. If you did, nice. Peace out.